Hi, how are you? Yes, it's Viking hair, Hal, or elven hair, depending on how you look at it. I'm enjoying the elven side of things. Although it should be blonde for that, so if I let it go full white, then I'll just become the Witcher. That should work. Speaking of the Witcher, um, so Laura Ingraham has Glenn Greenwald on to have like a leg wrestle about which one of them gives less of a shit about deaths, murders, rapes, mutilations of children, bombings of civilian areas in Ukraine. And this is I have to say, this is one of my favorite ridiculous arguments, right up there with denazification and its Monato crowd. The idea is that Russia's gonna win. All we're doing is dragging this out. All you're doing is, it's the same talking point MTG uses. And sounds like what's going to happen here. Glenn Greenwald sounds off on lengthening the Ukraine war. But he can't, he's sounding off because he can't speak intelligently on the thing. So he's sounding off. He's just going, that's what sounding reminds me of. All right, here we go. So I'm curious, you're curious. The two genuinely awful people who, by the way, would never hang out. For the record, just like to say, there's no way a Glenn Greenwald, Laura Ingraham dinner happens, even though they both, I'm sure they each think of the other one as less than them, which is hilarious. But you know that for a fact. You know that. And hold on one second. We got one of these like crypto nudniks in the Facebook. I got him. There you go. Daniel, what? Bang! Got him right out of the gate. I didn't even have to wait in the chat room. Kapow. All right. So let's hear what the reasoning is that, the Russians, sure, they took a half of Severodonetsk a couple days ago and they've lost it since. But these talking points, we sat on these talking points eggs a few weeks ago. It'd be a shame to not let them hatch. So let's hear.
The war in Ukraine reaches its 100th day, if you can believe.
100th day. Yeah, I'm sorry. We just got out of a war in Afghanistan that lasted 21 fucking years. What part of this? 100 days? You don't say. The lifelong struggle of one man sick with brain cancer and stupidity, locked away during COVID, watching old videos on how great Stalin was, finally decides to attack a country and take it, and it's stretched on this long? Jesus, I mean, it's just, shouldn't the Russians have won by now? It's a war of attrition.
We thought it was important to take stock of where we are.
Where are we? Oh, you mean you're in New York and he's in Brazil?
Christopher Caldwell, a contributing editor at the Claremont Review of Books.
Oh, them, yes. You guys know the Claremont Review of Books.
Wrote a stunning guest essay in the New York Times.
Stunning.
Arguing that the conflict is spiraling out of control.
That doesn't look like it's spiraling out of control. That looks like it was just stuck. I would think whoever designs Russian bombs, I'm not trying to help you, but they're supposed to explode. I'm just saying. They're not supposed to stick in. You're not making jarts. How do you say jarts in Russian?
And how U.S. policymaking...
This is a dude biking. It's spiraling out of control. You can tell by this guy currently in Sloviansk, Ukraine, bicycling by an unexploded munition. Yes, this is the very definition of spiraling out of fucking control. Back that up, like, for fuck's sake.
Arguing that the conflict is spiraling out of control. And how U.S. policymaking has contributed to that.
Come on. You can't... Somebody thought that was a great catch. Yes, the Russians are just wiping them out. I don't know why they don't give up. They haven't even stopped riding their bikes. They're being attacked by everything Russia has to offer, short of their nukes, which may or may not even work. Jesus Christ. I have to watch that again. I'm sorry. It's just too much. Back up. First of all, yes, building riddled with bullets. We understand the Russians. That, by the way, most of the Donbass has looked like this for a long time because the Russians kill every Ukrainian they come across.
Spiraling out of control, and how U.S. policymaking has contributed to that. He writes, even if we don't accept Mr. Putin's claim that America's arming of Ukraine is the reason the war happened in the first place.
Yeah, we don't, because we weren't arming Ukraine before the war.
It is certainly the reason the war has taken the kinetic, explosive, deadly form it has.
You mean the part where they got to defend themselves? Yeah, it's weird. The only reason this is a fight is somebody gave that dude a shield.
Our role in this is not passive or incidental.
You're right. We're not passive or incidental. We're not like, it's not like Zelensky's looking over at our plate that has missiles on it and goes, you going to finish that, or can I...
We've given Ukrainians cause to believe they can prevail in a war of escalation.
Well, the assumption that it's a war of escalation, I take issue with, but they can prevail. They fucking are.
That naturally may create among American policymakers a sense of moral and political obligation.
Ew.
To stay the course, to escalate the conflict, to match any excess.
Yeah, we don't, any excess. Anytime the Russians send in rape squads, we send them howitzers to keep the rape squads out. Weird of us. I don't know what this whole thing is. What precisely does the American flag mean to Laura Ingraham? Jesus Christ.
Well, given that level-headed warning, this...
Level-headed. Based on what 36 experts agree, stay the course in Ukraine. So one dude, obviously the 36 experts are out of their goddamn minds.
Headline in The Hill caught our eye.
Our eye? You have a collective eye? I knew it. She's a witch. She shares her eye with 3 other witches.
36 experts.
Sorry, 2 witches. It's 3 witches total. I know.
Experts agree. Stay the course.
This is like Kids in the Hall. 36 Helens agree. You should stay the course in Ukraine.
In Ukraine. Now, the signatures naturally include a panoply of MSNBC and CNN green room fixtures, but we couldn't help but get the sense that we've heard this language before.
We are doing the right thing, and we must stay the course.
My message today.
It's 2004. That was 3 years into Iraq and Afghanistan. Not 100 days, asshole. And what is... All right, this is incomparable. Why don't they just show this about, like, Kanye and Kim's marriage?
To those in Iraq is we'll stay the course.
So are they...
By the way, staying the course in Iraq, technically speaking, has led to a stable government there. And on a much smaller footprint. One of the reasons why we got out of Afghanistan the way we did and when we did was because there's no there. There is no establishing the kind of government with any legs that we were trying to put in place. Iraq, different, is happening. It actually is occurring. So, bad example, too.
Are there many billions in weaponry that we're sending to Ukraine? Are they really about ensuring a victory for Ukraine?
Yes.
Or is it just needlessly extending the bloodshed as part of some elite vanity project from a foreign policy establishment that's been wrong on most everything during the last 2 decades?
What? Wait a minute. This isn't the Bush White House. This isn't Iraq. We don't have soldiers in this area. That country requested help from us, and they're an ally. They were attacked.
Me now is Glenn Greenwald.
Oh, good. Yeah, so Glenn Greenwald, who, by the way, let's see, hold on. Now, I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum, but let's see. Yeah, here you go. Washington, Babylon. There you go. Glenn, let's see. Remember Carlos Danger, right? Meet Harry Studs, Glenn Greenwald's alter ego. Just in case, if I refer to him at any point as Harry Studs, you'll know why. Harry Studd's video, the Hot Harry and Real video, was shot by Glenn Greenwald. Totally cool. I mean, stay in porn, dude. Knock yourself out. He once was sued over his stuff. There you go. There's everybody judging Hunter Biden. Meanwhile, let's see. Greenwald's always contrived with the maximum PR impact. Okay, there you go. Anyways, just so you know, Harry Studs, and that there was at one point, again, that's cool. Do your thing, man. Let's see. Let's see. Where is it? Glenn Greenwald. He's. I want to say it was. Was it Dom? I don't even know if I'm going to spell this right. Dom Hare. Must include Dom Hare. I'm not going to be able to spell it right. Yeah. He used to his swinger name was Dom Hare, meant to mean Damen and Herren in German, men and women in German, and combined into one word, and also like hair as in never mind. He looks like Jiminy Cricket.
Co-founder of The Intercept and author of Securing Democracy.
By the way, there is no world where the two of these overlap normally. They're just this is the enemy of my enemy is someone's enemy, and therefore I like enemies.
Glenn, how many times have we heard this stay the course, victories around the corner, we got them on the run, let's surge and do, pick your city or town. Are you surprised by this at this point?
At this point, it's 100 days in. What the surprising part would be like, you know what? Fuck it. Russia tried to take the place over, and I mean, they're going to succeed, right? So what the hell? Why are we helping these people? I mean, why are we helping Ukraine at all? I mean, just because they asked, just because they have to do this on, I mean, can't they just die? And yeah, nobody's saying victory is just around the corner, except the Russians, apparently.
Every time I've been on your show to talk about this war from the start, the theme has always been the one question that's most important happens to be the one never being asked, which is, in what way does this war serve the interests of the American people?
Yeah, who cares? Americans don't care if Russia wants to invade anywhere, even if it is an attack on a European allied country and there are allies and they're just murdering people. What business is it of ours? Why are we in the stopping murder business ever? And aren't we guilty enough? Don't we do enough terrible in the world that we should just not do anything good in case?
It doesn't. Obviously, it serves the interest of a tiny sliver of people.
A tiny sliver of humans on the planet, namely Ukrainians.
People in Washington, weapons manufacturers, people in the security state who get money and power from these sorts of things. And right at the moment...
Not if the shit doesn't work. For the record. And by the way, the Ukrainians would pay us, are going to end up paying us back over time for any of the munitions we've given them. We know this. Ask England.
When their market for these weapons disappeared, when the U.S. finally got out of Iraq and Afghanistan,
Weird. Who got us out of Afghanistan? Is it the same people that, lo and behold,
there's this new market in Ukraine?
Yeah, lo and behold, Russia attacks Ukraine. We get out of Afghanistan, and obviously the Biden administration hypnotized Vladimir Putin.
And I think the op-ed really reflects the fact of how
doesn't reflect a fact at all.
Suppressed the debate has been, because it points to things like, we've been in Ukraine since 2014. We've been armed.
We've been in Ukraine since 2014. By the way, one of the reasons why they're kicking the Russians' ass is because we've been in Ukraine since 2014, training them. They have an NCO class. They actually have a functioning military, whereas Russia has basically been run as a kleptocracy, and they've just been shuffling money and stealing from themselves.
Arming them since at least 2017 or 2018 with heavy weaponry, making very provocative gestures toward Russia right on the other side of the border. And there's been
a very provocative gestures. What gestures were we using? Like, we were doing like provocative gestures. They were standing on the border going very provocative gestures. That's sign language for NATO expansion, in case you guys don't speak sign language.
Absence of any attempt to resolve the war diplomatically, which is
Oh yeah. Why don't we send diplomats somewhere, just like maybe send them to the steel factory in Mariupol?
what you would be doing, trying to solve it diplomatically if you actually cared about the Ukrainians.
Well, no, not if you didn't believe the solution that would come would actually hold, in the same way that remember the Minsk agreement?
The Biden administration instead has been escalating the war seemingly deliberately, which is what you would do if you don't care about Ukrainians, but instead care about...
Look at her shaking her head. It's terrible. If they really cared about the Ukrainians, they would just let them be killed. And Biden's escalation of the war, especially when he went on that Russian 60 Minutes show and said Ukrainians don't exist. Let's see. Remember that? Remember when he went on there? Let's see. I think I've got some footage of Biden saying some of this stuff. Give me a second. Let's see it. It always takes me a minute because I've got so much stuff of Biden. There you go. Let's see. Let's see. There's so much to do. Let's see. No, I've got direct footage of him. Yeah, here you go. This is the... If people weren't dying, this would be the funniest comedy. It's all good, except for the fact that we're moving towards such an escalation. Hold on. We're descending into bloody pages of world history. Reminder, these are the assholes that attacked the other country. Those who say there are no restrictions that violate the NATO-Russia Act. Oh, by the way, the NATO-Russia Act is the 1997 agreement that allows Ukraine to join NATO if they fucking well want to, that Russia signed. That I bring up, and I guess nobody except this asshole has even mentioned. We will deliver whatever we want, wherever we want. Try it. Just try it. And by the way, the agreement was that everybody recognizes the sovereignty of these countries and that they can form whatever defensive alliances or not form them to their heart's content, including Ukraine, Chechnya, Georgia, any of the satellite countries. And what did Russia do? It invaded them and violated the agreement first. And now that anybody pushes back, they're like, you're violating the agreement and therefore we can nuke you. If everything keeps progressing the way it is, only a couple of mutants in Lake Baikal will survive. The rest will be destroyed in a massive nuclear strike. By the way, no one is claiming at any point that the Allies are going to launch a nuclear strike, or that NATO is, or the United States is. Russia is not even saying that they expect us to attack them with a nuclear weapon. When they bring this up, they mean them. And you don't say shit like that if you're winning. If you're like, it's only a matter of time, we're going to take this place. Everything is moving in that direction, regardless of what either side wants. Because if NATO decides they can place whatever they want at our borders, they'll be sending more and more of Americans' weapons to Ukraine. By the way, Putin earlier like 3 weeks ago, before he died, said, we assume, because everything he's saying lately has been taped, it said that he doesn't care if Finland joins NATO. So if they don't care if Finland joins NATO, NATO can put whatever the hell it wants in the Finnish territories. So why does he give a crap about Ukraine? Because he doesn't think he can lay claim to Finland, and he knows he would lose against the Finnish army. He thought he could win against the Ukrainians. Ukraine will fire and end up hitting one of our nuclear power plants, and here we go. That's the idea that they're... So basically, he's telling you that they're going to blow up one of their own nuclear plants and blame someone. And by the way, blow up one of your nuclear plants? These are the assholes that attacked Chernobyl. Do you remember that? It's been a month now. Everyone will get more than they asked for. Bang, and there's nothing left. Let's get to bang in a moment. Yes, we should be happy. except the young people may not share this definition of happiness. We finally arrived. This is our last and decisive battle. I don't see any cause for happiness, but I also don't see any other choice. If there will be deliveries of such weapons that could reach into our territory, although they say they promise not to do it. Yeah, don't make me laugh. We've been living with them for years. Right, they've been living with them for years in other countries, and none of them have ever reached into Russian territory. It's only weird that once they attack a country that they suddenly get concerned. We'll be forced to respond because our people wouldn't understand if we didn't. Our boss, Vladimirovich Putin, which, by the way, they're saying his full name, VVP, lately, which sounds like they're eulogizing him. Very odd. Escalation. We're provoking us again, forgetting the lessons of history, that we should not be provoked. Now, you shouldn't be provoked. This is interesting. What? Listen to this shit. You can poke a hibernating bear with a branch. You're poking him, poking him, poking him, and he wakes up and whap. Discussions about the future are only good. And by the way, for the record, that's what Russia has been doing since before 2014. Invading Georgia, invading Chechnya, initially invading Crimea and Donbass. They've been poking the bear. Their idea that somehow NATO has been pushing on them, and that's why they had to seize territory in Georgia and Chechnya, makes no fucking sense. How is it not that the analogy fits that they have been poking the bear, and NATO, which was like, okay, we'll let you be in the, in the G20, but not in the G7, but you have to sell gas and oil for your food. We'll let you be in the market and all these kind of things as long as all right, you attacked another country, but we'll let you decide, all those things. And then all of a sudden they're catching some shit and they're like, we have been poked. Like, shut the fuck up. When you're certain there will be a future, since we're not sure, let's wait until the next program. By the way, this guy, look at this dude's face. The joke is that there might not be a tomorrow. Yeah, look at this dude's face. By the way, let's see. Where's the? There was another one. We look at the battles in Mariupol. It's going to be so exciting. Yada yada. Okay, all these stories. So this is. This guy pushes back in this one clip. This guy pushes back against the idea that there will be nuclear war and that it's not a big deal. This is the dude who initially was like, I call bullshit. It's not working. So he got a good talking to. This guy was one of in the early episodes of this show, he was saying it'll be over quickly. These guys are going to get wiped out. And then later on when it didn't, he was like, this is taking longer than it should. It's embarrassing. These things are going bad. And then all of a sudden he gets this talking to, and he's like, we need to just level the East Coast of the United States. Let's move on Berlin, London, Washington, he says. Yeah, so here we go. This is this dude, and now he's actually out in the field. So he has been moved out to the front lines. He's no longer in the studio. People here are divided into including those in the military. First group fully supports denazification and demilitarization of Ukraine. It's more complicated with the second group. They demand we move on Berlin, London, and Washington. Those are the only two categories. That's how they feel. So there's two groups, according to this dude, in Russia. There's the group that says, yeah, we got to denazify and demilitarize Ukraine, wipe out the Ukrainians as a culture, as a person. And anybody who's been sympathetic, any Russian living in Ukraine who's lived as a Ukrainian in the country, they're poisoned by the Nazification of Ukraine. So they got to get wiped out. And then the other half, or I guess they're the peaceniks, they believe that we should just fire on Berlin, London, and Washington, just open fire on these things, on the country. What we see going on here right now is completely unacceptable. Those deliveries of weapons Americans are attempting, let's objectively ask, Do they really think they're shitty weapons? Those bastards really think they'll change the situation? Well, then what are you upset about? If they're not going to change the situation, I mean, no, they won't, he says. People here, oh, okay, and that was it. They just cut away from him. They won't change. All right, well, then what are you worried about? Yeah, so, wait, was that? Yeah, okay. So anyways, that's the current state. These guys are talking like winners. Meanwhile, across the pond, Glenn and Laura are both like, I don't know why the Ukrainians don't just cry uncle.
Weapons manufacturers and the power of the U.S. security state.
Joe Biden.
So did the Russians attack Ukraine to build up their military suppliers?
Glenn it's basically just a non-answer on what he believes needs to happen next. Watch.
Mr. President, does Ukraine have to cede territory to achieve some peace? Cede territory, not seek. I don't know who's that stupid. Mr. President, does Ukraine have to cede territory, as in give territory to achieve some peace?
It's their territory. I'm not going to tell them what they should and shouldn't do. But it appears to me that at some point along the line, there's a settlement here. And what that entails, I don't know. But in the meantime, we're going to continue to put the Ukrainians in a position where they can defend themselves.
Glenn, Germany and France have already, just a few days ago, urged Russia to go back to the negotiating table. They want this over, clearly.
And, by the way, shall we bring back Laura Ingraham from like 2002 or some shit, or even Fox News in general from 2002 about what we think about France and Germany's opinion about war? Jesus Christ. Is she back to French fries? Are French fries cool again at Fox?
Killing their economy.
It's killing their economy. Well, you know, who cares if the Russians are killing Ukrainian children and elderly people and workers and just folks trying to live their lives? I mean, it's tough on the euro
economies. And Biden's still meandering down this road of, well, we're gonna keep sending more weapons there. What's your response to this?
What is that? Why was he even doing this? What is he doing? Why would you even say? How does this do it? I mean, if you're going to send, why would he even send weapons? Just because they're winning? It's so weird. Like, why would he even, is he just doing this by himself? It's like he's got a little switch that sends shit. It's never mind the UK just did the exact same thing we did, and Germany and France, while they're pushing Putin to go back to the table, not expecting him to actually do it, or at least doing carrot where we're doing stick, but they're also sending weapons. The fucking French just sent movable howitzers.
So I think there's been a clear narrative shift in how the media has been describing this war over the last couple of weeks. That's
yeah, totally. Yeah, a narrative shift.
Quite notable. For the first 3 months, the media has barely acknowledged Russian advances at all. If you were listening to them, you would think that the Ukrainians have...
They got driven out of Kiev. They're back in the same territory they had primarily, and they're giving it all they got. They just lost. If he brings up Severodonetsk and says, see, they've won.
Vanquished this much more powerful Russian military. Many times the experts said they were days away from a full-scale military collapse. And now the media is acknowledging that they...
No one has said that. Everybody has said they're months away, but it's definitely headed in that direction. Maybe that's why Glenn and Laura are upset. Because they are. And if this goes on much longer, Russia won't have the ability to even defend their territories in Chechnya and Georgia anymore.
They have essentially consolidated control over large portions of eastern Ukraine, which is what Putin said from the beginning was his goal.
Bullshit.
So
that he did not. If that was his goal, why'd they attack the capital in the western part of the country?
In order to actually expel the Russians...
By the way, this only works if you didn't actually see the speech that Putin gave, both of them, the two major policy ones before and right after, and the cabinet meeting he had with all of his people to get them online with denazifying the fucking country. And the definition of denazifying was anybody who identifies as Ukrainian.
From Ukrainian territory and go back to the pre-invasion borders, you would need a commitment over many years that would be extremely dangerous and very expensive. We can't win a war on the other side of the world without a sacrifice.
The other side of the world? This isn't the South China Seas, dum-dum. This is attached to Europe. Ukraine is buttressed right up against fucking Poland.
Well beyond what Americans are or should be willing to endure.
Yeah, they should give up. I mean, Americans have been through so much. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, we're giving $40 billion worth. I mean, granted, we have a $754 billion yearly military budget, but, you know, lend leasing $40 billion of that stuff that isn't currently being used to people who are going to use it to defend themselves and then are going to pay us back for its use over a couple of decades. I mean, how much more can we take? I mean, there's long lines at Starbucks. It's just, how can we?
You called this from the beginning, and
what did he call? You called this from the beginning?
sadly, you were right. But
you were right. It's still ongoing. Secondly, no, he wasn't. On what part? So if you're going to say that, you can't say you called this. You have to say, Glenn, you said by da-da-da, this was not going to be quick and the Ukrainians weren't going to win by 3 months. And like putting all the artificial weight, by the way, in that statement, if he even did say it, on the Ukrainians instead of the invading force.
we really appreciate your perspective tonight.
Yeah, totally. I do. And you know what I appreciate? The editor at Fox's website that put a picture of Newt Gingrich's face over Laura Ingraham and whoever this woman is on Hannity. And I will point out that genetically speaking, it is completely reasonable that Glenn Greenwald is wearing either Fox News eyeglasses, big like Elton John eyeglasses, or a Fox News channel patch as a Fox pirate. And that, technically speaking, Laura Ingraham's face is a perfect match between these two people. I'm just saying, if two of these people fell into a vat of toxic waste, Laura Ingraham would crawl out of it. Bikini Singh, right? So yeah, here we go. All right, so that's, by the way, you're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide, and it's nice to be on here with you. I appreciate it. Yes, the pro-life party. You know, just let them die. I mean, what's the big deal? Who needs it? Right? Jesus.